All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this October day. I hope the weather's nice wherever you may be joining us from. Um, whether it's fall or spring where you are, hope that everything is nice. Thank you for joining us for this fall ReShare open community meeting. Have a lot of exciting stuff to go over. Um, Updates from our committees, updates from our product committee, and a presentation from our very own Alan Jones about interoperable resource sharing. And to get us started, yeah, here's the agenda. Apologize. We've got some brief committee updates from Finance Committee, our new Community Engagement Committee, and our Communications and Marketing. Like I said, we've got some presentations from our Product Committee and Alan Jones about interoperable resource sharing. Then after the presentations, we're going to do Q&A. So if you have any questions about the two presentations that come up, please go ahead and write them down or throw them in the chat, and we will get to those after both presentations are complete. But to kick us off, I'm going to hand it over to one of our steering committee co-chairs, Clara Fehrenbach, to open us up and give us the welcome.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our October 2025 Project ReShare Open Community Meeting. James stole my joke about saying whether it was fall or spring where you're joining. So that is actually a good segue because as you saw from the agenda, we have a lot of exciting updates for you. But I wanted to provide a few updates from steering committee. But first, talk a little bit about what ReShare is and why we're all here. And the reason I said it was a good segue is we're a growing global community. And as Tom is saying, the sun never sets on Project ReShare. It's very cute. We're a global community-driven initiative that we collaboratively build an open source, standards-based resource sharing platform to connect library patrons to the information that they require. And our vision is to serve as libraries' competitive advantage, driving innovation and agency in support of resource sharing, all while maintaining an inclusive, sustainable ecosystem that's accountable to its community of co-investors, aka all of us. And we want to emphasize community ownership and collaborative roadmap development and transparency. And you're going to be seeing a little bit about the work of the roadmap development and where that's been going and where it's going next. As far as steering committee updates, I wanted to announce two of our newest members who were elected in the summer. Ian Bogus is a member of the steering committee now from ReCap, and Clara DeMarco is from the University of Pennsylvania. I want to thank all of the voting representatives for casting your ballots in that election. I also am so excited to share the news that we are now recruiting for a community manager to help strengthen coordination, communication, and member engagement across our growing community. We've been planning for this position for a while now. You've been hearing about it at various community updates. And now we are finally able to move forward with it. Thank you, all of you, and so much the institutions who have contributed. And I especially want to call out the University of Pittsburgh, who is the latest contributor. If your institution is able to contribute towards the community manager or another ReShare initiative, we're always looking for more opportunities to grow the community and make sure that we're as strong as we can be. Please reach out to info@projectreshare.org if that is something that you or your institution can help with. And we can keep doing this because of the financial and time commitments of our members and our member organizations. So I want to send the link to this position to you all, which I had up, but now don't apparently. And encourage you all to please share with your networks if you're interested. Please reach out to info@projectreshare.org. And yeah, we're really hoping to get somebody good to help us really grow and coordinate in the community. And with that, I will pass it off.
Thanks, Claire. My name is Isaac Gilman. I am with the Orbis Cascade Alliance, but in this current role, for the purposes of this call, I am the current treasurer of Project ReShare. And I just want to say at ReShare, we share not only resources, we also share links. So if you see me commenting in the chat, that's not me, that's Charlie. Yeah, I'm very appreciative that he hasn't said anything wildly inappropriate in my name, but I guess there's still time. So with that, I will give the actual update I was planning on, which is an up. Oh, all right. There's multiple people. I have multiple people. Okay. For our FY26 operating budget, this is the first full fiscal year with our new budget model, which distributes maintenance costs, which are the largest kind of expense driver in our operating budget on an annual basis. It distributes those across implementing organizations, the community, and index data through in-kind contributions. And so because of that, our budget is a great place for this year. We're projecting a balanced operating budget for FY26, which also includes some small allowances for unanticipated costs. Outside of the operating budget itself, we have also allocated funding for the new community manager position, which we'll be hearing more about. And the Finance Committee recommended to the ReShare Steering Committee that we commit $100,000 that we had in restricted funds available over 2 years to fund the position. So allocating essentially $50,000 a year for the costs related to that work. As just a reminder, these restricted funds are coming from specific contributions that members have made to support different ReShare strategic priorities. Some given specifically for this position, some given for other strategic priorities that this position will support. So we just want to thank all of you again for the contributions that you make to the community, both on an annual basis as members or implementers, and then also for special needs and priorities like this. We're really excited to be able to post that role and to see how it will support the community going forward. Finally, I just wanted to share that while we have been diligent in ensuring that ReShare is financially sound over the years, that work has up until now kind of lacked a dedicated framework to make sure that as we move leadership, within the steering committee or the finance committee or from treasurer to treasurer, we have a consistent set of principles and practices that we're using to guide financial decision making. And so in order to put that into place, we're rolling out a new task force this fall that's going to be working on a financial framework for ReShare on that set of financial principles to help guide our planning and decision making as we go forward and make sure that it's sustainable and transparent. So we'll have representation from the Finance Committee, from Steering Committee, as well as 2 members from ReShare standing committees on that task force. And we look forward to sharing more about that work as it goes forward this year, and obviously the final product as well, which will be the new ReShare financial framework. So those are the updates from finance. I'm going to go back to reading myself in the chat, and I'm going to throw it over to Shelby and Hilary to talk about community engagement.
Thanks so much, Isaac. I'm excited to be part of this newly formed Community Engagement Committee, and Shelby Schwoyer is joining me to share some information about the committee. We just started meeting in August, and the committee was created to help ReShare better understand community needs and how best to meet those needs while also promoting an inclusive and diverse community. We also help connect community members with projects and committees in ReShare and with each other. So as I just mentioned, our main task is to help recruit volunteers to participate in the committees and projects within the ReShare community. We also help new members become acquainted with ReShare after they join, request feedback from the community, share it with everyone and learn from it, and then finally run annual elections. And so now I'll turn it over to Shelby to talk about the first big project that we've been working on.
Thanks, Hilary. So in order to accomplish some of the objectives about the committee that Hilary just described, I will briefly be discussing the mechanism by which we hope to source some of that information. We have recently designed and shared our community engagement survey with the intention to help us as a committee understand what initiatives people want to see, what infrastructure can serve to support, and where we can improve in making our community as inclusive and as engaged as possible. Essentially, our goal in this survey is to compile how our committee can do meaningful work for the ReShare community as told by the ReShare community. To generally discuss the contents of the survey, there are a handful or so of questions, which include multiple formats, scaled options, selection choices, and short responses. Regarding who can take the survey, we welcome any interested parties, and respondents do not need to work for an institution who is currently a member of Project ReShare or who has implemented ReShare. These full responses will only be viewed by members of the Community Engagement Committee, and in future we do hope to share these results in a similar community meeting format to this one. To that end, I do want to note that reasonable anonymization efforts will be made regarding responses, and there are approval and usage questions in the survey itself. The last bit of information regarding this survey is that we kindly ask responses to be completed with the deadline of October 31st in mind. If after this little introduction you are energized to complete the survey, you can access it via our community mailing list that just went out. I believe it is hyperlinked on the slides here. We do hope to have a blog post out about it shortly, and you can always drop us a message at community-engagement@projectreshare.info for any access to this particular survey or to learn more about the committee or to get involved. I believe those are the updates that we have for the community at this time, and I'm going to pass the baton to Boaz and the Communications and Marketing Committee.
Hello, everybody. My name is Boaz Nadav. I'm the chair of the Communication and Marketing Committee and a member of the steering committee. So the Communication and Marketing Committee is responsible for strategic marketing and outreach activities across our community. Beyond making sure that we keep updating our members of the most recent project and product developments, we take care of the ReShare brand, including stewarding the website, and help organize several annual member events, such as the one you're attending today. We make sure that the voice of the ReShare project is present and known. And as ReShare grows and become global, we can use some additional help. So if you are interested, no particular marketing experience is needed. Just let us know that you want to help. We're going to be loving that. In the past few months, ReShare has been very active in various conferences and gatherings. We planned an informal and fun meeting in the ALA Philadelphia conference and provided sponsorship for NWIL, the Northwest Interlibrary Loan and Resource Sharing Conference. Last month, we had ReShare celebrated in the open source WOLFcon conference in Kansas City, with several programs ranging from accessibility considerations to the very recent adoption of ReShare by the Australian Library Networks. Links to these presentations can be found on our website. I also like to point out the coming BLC Digital Lending Summit that will be happening in October 29th. The summit will provide a forum to discuss future directions and strategies to expand digital lending practices in libraries. During the summit, you'll learn about the landscape of digital lending practices in libraries, collaborate across organizations, and be part of this community. There is a QR code on our slide, and you can just follow it and register. It's open to any library and consortia workers. If you're planning to attend the Charleston conference next month, please join us for a Project ReShare informal community meeting on Thursday, November 6th at 6 p.m. at the Blind Tiger patio. We'll look forward to meet you all there. So now I will greet James to continue the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Boaz, and thank you everybody who presented some updates from the committees. Again, I love that part of these meetings. It's very straightforward. It's very kind of business oriented, but it's also like it's so great to see all the work that the various volunteers in the various committees of our community are doing to help move this project forward. All right, this is a little weird because to some extent I'm kind of introducing myself, but for the two presentations that we've got for today, we've got first a product committee update with myself and Marc Hoffeditz, the resource sharing program manager at BLC, the Boston Library Consortium. The two of us together co-convene the product committee. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been working on really for the past almost 2 years at this point. And then after that, we're going to bring up Ellen Jones, the Senior Director of Digital Libraries and Technical Services at the New School, to talk about interoperable resource sharing and a little bit about Crosslink, one of the exciting developments in that field. So for a brief moment, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Bring up another very similar looking slide deck. And I think we can go ahead and get started. Marc, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. As James said, my name is Marc Hoffeditz. I serve as one of the co-conveners for the product committee at ReShare and as the resource sharing program manager for BLC. So we're here to talk to you today about some of the recent activities with the product committee. Next slide. So here's a quick overview. First, we'll talk a bit about who we are and what we've been working on. Then we'll dive into the community-driven enhancement process we've been developing, as well as some of the near-term development priorities that we've worked to chart for the ReShare product. Finally, we'll share some ideas of how you can get involved with our work if anything sounds of interest to you. Next slide. So if you are new to ReShare, you might be saying, what the heck is a product committee? We are a group charged with recommending development priorities and a schedule of enhancements for the ReShare software. We also coordinate the strategy for the product and with all the various ReShare stakeholders, including software developers, subject matter experts, also known as the SMEs, and the ReShare steering committee. The product committee is made up of individuals from inside and outside of the ReShare community who are invested in guiding a transparent and engaging process for the ReShare product to evolve over time. As you can see on the screen, our membership includes a number of different folks from resource sharing and public service practitioners, system librarians, and software developers, as well as staff from the participating consortia. We meet every month for 1 hour and occasionally split into smaller subgroups to stay nimble and accomplish any of the tasks at hand. And we'll share a little bit more about that in a bit. Take it away, James.
Have myself muted, apologies. So a little bit of this starts with if you go back to, I believe it was October of 2024, we originally talked a little bit about what the product committee did there and said, this is some of the stuff we're working on. We expect to have some information, some more updates, in early 2025. And now it's October 2025. So what happened? Well, we had our deadline, and as we got deeper into this work, we realized that there was still a lot of infrastructure that needed to be built. But even more than that infrastructure, there are a lot of conversations that needed to happen. A lot of the work of keeping the product and the project on course in absence of an active product committee was split into various parts of the project. Some with SMEs, some with developers, some with steering committee. And it took a lot of talking with each other and coming up with strategies moving forward to bring all those pieces that were kind of separated from each other into a cohesive framework and paradigm. And what that really came down to was product ownership. And to help me kind of understand that, to me, that boils down to, in a community-owned project like what we want ReShare to be, who decides how development resources are allocated, and how do those individuals or those groups or those parties make those decisions? And there are some things that drive us in that, again, this is community owned. It shouldn't be that any one group has any unilateral decision-making power. It requires regular feedback from the community. It requires transparency of the work and how decisions are made. It requires ways to hold different aspects of the project accountable. Transparency doesn't mean anything if it's just information that people can act on. So that's one part of it. It also means that decisions need to be informed. There are a lot of different people that are working on different parts of this project. So it's not just enough to have some group that's making decisions. You want them, whoever's making a decision at any point of the process, to make sure that they've got the information necessary to make informed decisions. So What does that mean from the steering committee aspect? What does that mean from the product committee aspect? What does that mean from the developer aspect? What information do we need from these different groups like developers and SMEs and the steering committee and the community at large in order to make decisions and to feel like, for anybody to feel like they are acting not just on behalf of themselves, but on behalf of the good of the project for everyone? That takes a lot more time, and that was a lot bigger process than we expected it to be, which is why we're here now. But we have a lot of exciting updates to give you on all that. So that's a little bit of what we've been working on. How we've decided to tackle that. We kind of split things up into two groups, Marc and I, with the product committee. On one part of that, you have team flowchart. And this is kind of our more future thinking group, understanding a little bit about, how those decisions get made, who needs to be part of that, what that process looks like from beginning to end. How do community guided enhancement requests turn into actual development projects and development projects that we can complete on time, on budget, and product features that users of the software can see and take advantage of on a regular basis. So that was one part of it, the future-facing aspect. Then the other part was team roadmap, because as great as the future stuff was, people are using the software. People expect work to be done. We can't just pause this whole thing until we figure out exactly what the infrastructure needs to look like. So another half of the project that we call Team Roadmap was trying to figure out what projects does the community need developers to prioritize right now. What's the most important? What's our capacity? What can we do to use the resources that we've got in the most efficient way possible to make really important impacts that will help us move forward, and hit the ground running after we've got that stuff done and after we've got that infrastructure in place. So to talk a little bit more about the team flowchart aspect of that, I'm going to throw it back to Marc.
Thanks, James. So in working to develop a community-guided enhancement process, I can speak on behalf of Team Flowchart to say that it is much easier said than done. And there had been a number of challenges that we had to address as part of this process. So with Team Flowchart, reflecting on our own individual past experiences with the development of other library software, we felt that it was really important for the development to be as transparent and accountable to the community as possible. We felt that there had been other software projects that often claimed to be transparent, community-driven, but the results weren't really coming out in the wash. We wanted to offer a real clear alternative for the community to better understand the status of different initiatives and enhancements as they are going through the ReShare fold. Another challenge was, how do we approach and intake projects of different size and scale? So how do we apply the same lens of evaluation to a small idea like altering a field that's in a pull slip, and a large idea like reworking a state model to align with ISO 18626? And I saw that in the chat, so everyone has to take a drink. Just kidding. All of these challenges involve ensuring that we have the right folks within the ReShare community providing their input and expertise at the point of need so that those ideas move through the pipeline in a seamless manner. So to help direct this work in the development of a community-driven enhancement process, Team Flowchart used a number of guiding principles to frame our approach. As we've been mentioning throughout this entire webinar, transparency is really key through each step of the process as a means of accountability to the project and to you, to the community. We also believe that structure is our friend and are actively working to develop a number of resources and infrastructure to operationalize a lot of this work. So we're not doing the same work over and over that we could just do all at once. Finally, we want to recognize that we won't be able to guarantee that every enhancement idea becomes a reality. Like many of our member libraries and institutions, we have limited time and resources to expend, and we need to be really strategic in how we deploy them. So there may be times when we have to say no or not right now to certain ideas based on development bandwidth. However, we do think it's really critical to share the why, to provide reasons for when we say no and not right now in our commitment to transparency to the project in the ReShare community. With that context in mind, I'll share a little bit later in the presentation of the 8-step process that we'll be piloting as part of this community-directed enhancement process. And I will pass it back to James to talk about what Team Roadmap has been working on.
Yeah, thanks, Marc. Yeah, so the challenges that Team Roadmap had to address were critical ones, but really important ones that we felt like we couldn't let slip and be responsible while simultaneously being responsible stewards of the project and the product. So first, rising shipping costs and uncertain custom laws. It is making all libraries, wherever they are, finding it more difficult to request things from their overseas colleagues, especially physical materials, and making requesting physical materials from anybody, even if they're nearby, more expensive due to just the rising costs of everything right now. So ways that we could address that, help folks find things locally, help folks find things digitally. That's an extremely timely issue for all the libraries within the community. Second, upcoming accessibility compliance changes in the US. At the beginning of next year, the WCAG 2.1 level AA standards for web pages and public-facing internet services, those accessibility standards go into effect. And because ReShare is software that's used by municipalities that we want to get, that we want to make ourselves available to more, state and publicly funded institutions, we need to make sure that we are compliant with those standards. If we aren't, then we are no longer a viable product option for a lot of the people that we want to that we want to bring this product to. So that's a really critical thing that we need to focus on addressing. And finally, last but not least, are the limitations of ModRS. Now, without going into too much technical detail, ModRS is kind of the brain of ReShare. It's what controls logic, what controls the request states, how it's the thing that manages how requests move from one place to another within the life cycle of a request. So it's an extremely important part of the software. Now, it works. It does what we need it to do. It's working as intended, as designed for the libraries who are using ReShare. But it was also built in such a way to address the needs of the initial implementers. And as the project has grown, as the variety of implementers has become more diverse, the limitations of working with ModRS have started to really come to the fold. It's not that ModRS doesn't do what we need it to do. The problems with ModRS are more about scaling and adapting. It's become very difficult for us to do a lot of development on the software in an efficient and cost-effective manner because of how ModRS was originally built. And we've seen things like this earlier in the project. The reservoir mechanism that currently drives the shared index piece of ReShare. That is new. That is different than what ReShare rolled out with, because again, it was built for a certain time, for a certain set of users, and as more users came on, we needed to make an updated version of that shared index piece to be more agile, to be easier to develop, to make future development more efficient. And we're running into the same situation with ModRS.
So this is a visual of the community-guided enhancement process that details each of the steps to get new ideas that come from the community onto the roadmap. If you will indulge the reference, Team Flowchart was really keen to create our own version of the Schoolhouse Rock Classic, I'm Just a Bill, to describe the process for ReShare development to map out step-by-step how new ideas get onto the roadmap. Sadly, we don't have a cartoon or accompanying song to share at this moment, but if you dabble in illustration or songwriting, then please hit us up after the community meeting, and I am only partially kidding. Next slide. So let's walk through each of these steps in a bit more detail. The first step we have is soliciting. This is where projects of various sizes are pitched, from a small enhancement to a major architectural upgrade to a new consortial implementation. In this step, we will collect new ideas in a centralized form and provide a public interface to see the status of those project ideas as they move through the pipeline. Step number 2 is investigating. In this step, we will make sure we understand exactly what someone is asking for, and we come up with what we think a solution might look like. Things like make permissions better or install ReShare isn't enough detail. We need to know specifics, and we need to know what someone is trying to solve or accomplish in order to be able to come up with the best way forward. To support this, we're planning to establish an initial triage group from different ReShare stakeholders to review new submissions and direct them to the developers for things like bugs or accessibility issues, or to move on to the next step in the process, which is number 3, scoping. Now that we know what we've been asked to build, what will it take and what are the risks to do so? In this step, we'll gather expertise of different ReShare committees and stakeholders through an evaluation framework to consistently review new projects and enhancement ideas. Moving into step 4, reviewing. At this stage, the product committee will review those frameworks, and knowing what it'll take, we'll work to determine if the costs and risks of those enhancement ideas are worth it. Step number 5 is very exciting. It's the prioritizing phase, and this is where we get to directly hear from you all on the ideas that have moved forward onto that point. The mechanism we are planning to use is called ReShare Thunderdome. Insert lightning noises, which is a planned community engagement process to identify which enhancement ideas have broader interest amongst the ReShare community. Through the Thunderdome, we'll work to get community input on what our main priorities should be so we can best position new projects for future development and execution. And sadly, Tina Turner, RIP, will not be able to make an appearance, but her spirit will hopefully guide us through that process. Step number 6 is scheduling. Based on the available resources and priorities at hand, what do we think the next open development cycle should look like? Here, the product committee will collaborate with the development team at Index Data to determine and build out the next phases of the product ReShare, or the ReShare product roadmap. And finally, steps 7 and 8, which involve approval from the steering committee to move forward with our community-guided slate of ideas, and then actually developing them and making them into a reality. With our previously stated commitment to transparency in this process, every one of these steps will be documented and tracked with places to see the status of potential products, the results of any of our research, and the decisions that are being made. And this will allow the community to hold our leaders accountable and better understand how ideas that may not move forward at a certain point may be scoped or improved for future success in future development cycles. With all of the words that I just said, that doesn't mean that this process is a crystal ball, and it's not going to be able to forecast everything that might happen once an idea is in the fold or is translated into a functioning piece of software. However, it does mean that by supporting this process, everyone from the steering committee to the product committee to the community members and the users of the software can make more informed decisions and provide informed feedback as the owners of this project. We are planning to pilot this 8-step process in the coming months, so be on the lookout for more updates and information from the product committee about our progress and how you might be able to participate in it. And I'll pass it back to James.
All right, so with this framework in mind and with what we've talked about already, what are we actually prioritizing and where is it in the process? So here are our current project ReShare development priorities. First and foremost, we need to resolve the ModRS development bottleneck. That is making it extremely difficult to, like I said, do any kind of efficient use our resources responsibly and be able to do development on really any parts of the software that we want to do development on. That's really been slowing down our ability to bring forward the kind of community-driven enhancements that we want to see and make the kind of updates to pilot new state models and work with different kind of resource types. It's even holding back some of the things like we've talked about earlier with like compliance, accessibility compliance and things like that. So that first and foremost is our #1 priority, is resolving that ModRS development bottleneck. Now, to do that, we are looking at the IDS project's Crosslink software and initiative and looking at potentially modifying that as a way to update, put essentially an upgraded version of ModRS into service. So that's what we are currently scoping and reviewing right now. But Crosslink is not the project. the language here is clear. The project is not implementing Crosslink. The project is resolving the ModRS development bottleneck. Crosslink is one avenue that we're looking at to potentially do that, but at the end of the day, the goal is strictly to replace ModRS such that we can start using our development resources more efficiently, effectively. After that, development priority number 2, compliance with those accessibility requirements that I talked about earlier. Again, without being able to be compliant in those ways, it severely limits the ability of the project to grow and to bring on new users. And this also goes in line with the statement paper that the product committee put out probably, I think, close to a year ago, saying that with all things being equal, if we have to put ourselves in a situation where we have to decide between one project or another, if we have to prioritize one thing, we will land on the side of accessibility. We want that to be something that the project can hang its hat on. We think that is critical. We think that that goes in line with our mission as libraries and librarians. So that is absolutely development priority number 2. Last but not least, our priority number 3 is support for digital lending workflows for whole DRM-free ebook lending. We have not, by any stretch of the imagination, forgotten about the excitement around ReShare Digital and our desires to expand into electronic resource sharing. We also think that, like we said earlier, that helps us address some of the challenges that libraries are facing with shipping costs, with unclear international shipping standards and costs, and just our ability to just expand more parts of our collections, make them available to each other. So we are in the process of looking at that and looking at DRM-free ebook lending as a place for us both to make high impact changes to the software and provide new functionality, as well as a really good place for us to learn more about electronic resource sharing in this kind of fashion. This is a little bit of some new territory. So we want to do this in such a way that we can both provide new functionality and learn and build a good foundation for us to build off of moving forward to expand those ReShare Digital capacities. You'll see here the first priority, resolving ModRS. That is in the scoping and reviewing phase. Priorities 2 and 3, the accessibility compliance and the ebook lending, those are in the investigating phase. So we're still working with our SMEs to understand exactly what those projects will entail before we work on scoping those projects out. And what you'll see in all of this is, because of the stages that these are in, we are not yet at the phase where we have clear timelines for when we expect development to start and how long we expect that development to be for these things. So we're just kind of listing these as development priorities now. We are committed as the product committee, again, going back to our guiding principles, we need to have transparency around this. We want everybody to know what it is we're working on and how things are progressing. So we do plan on giving quarterly updates on all of these priorities and the work that the product committee is doing. But these are the 3 areas that we are dedicating our focus to right now, because we think these are the 3 most critical things for the product to try to tackle at this time. So with all that, talking about what we've been doing with building infrastructure, talking about the paradigm that we're looking, talking about the development projects that we're trying to work on, there's lots of work that needs to be done. So I can't end this presentation without telling you how you can get involved. First and foremost, the easiest, cheapest way to get involved is to join a committee. We've got product committee seats, at-large product committee seats that are going to be coming open at the so be on the lookout for information about those seats and those openings in early November, so that we can solicit nominations, have that go to a vote, and have those folks join us at the beginning of 2026 to start the new year. We also have our SMEs, which are our subject matter experts who know everything there is to know about resource sharing workflows or discovery or technology or records. You do not have to know everything about all of these to participate within this MEES, but if you have a really good understanding of one of these things, odds are some of the projects that we take on are going to need people who really know this stuff backwards and forwards to help us figure out how to spec out the development work that we want to do. So if you find yourself, and that is a group you do not need to be, you are not elected to anything. You do not need to go through a huge vetting process to participate in that. If you've got expertise in these areas that you want to share with us, you can reach out to us and we can connect you with that committee. And also we have our community engagement committee that you heard about earlier. And, you know, a big part of that committee is connecting folks who want to volunteers to the right volunteer opportunities. It's also about just connecting the community to each other and understanding what it is that the community is wanting. So they play a big role in helping us understand what it is that the community is looking for, and that feeds directly into what things get prioritized and how we want to do our work as the product committee. So that is critical too. That is absolutely another way to get involved if you are interested in any of this product stuff that Marc and I have been talking about today. Other ways to get involved, as Marc alluded to, we've got this revamped product enhancement process, and we'll specifically be looking for folks and opening up the community, looking for community engagement when it comes to stage 1, soliciting and giving us those ideas, and stage 5, prioritizing, helping us understand what those priorities are. So be on the lookout for that. And finally, it goes without saying, if you want to help us do what we want to do, become a member of Project ReShare. Have your organization become a member of Project ReShare. If you're already a member of Project ReShare, talk to us about how you can contribute to different projects that we're working on. Unfortunately, none of this stuff comes free, so we need resources to do this work. So that's always a way that you can help us out. All right, Marc and I have talked plenty, and we are getting on in time. So again, please hold your questions about this to the end. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to pass things on here in just a moment. To Alan Jones to talk about interoperable resource sharing. Alan, take it away. Let me know when you need me to move slides.
Nope. Oh, yep, most definitely. First of all, I just want to say I consider it cruel and unusual punishment that I get 5 minutes at the end for this, because this has probably been one of my favorite projects in my 20 years in libraries to work on. So I again could probably, everybody would be hammered if they were drinking by me saying 1866. This project of working with Ex Libris, with Project ReShare, with Trove and Caval, has a lot of people that are associated with it. Sarah Germain's on the call. It's probably crazy AM for her. Probably, I think by my math, somewhere around 5 or 6 a.m. Deanna Cronk as well over on the Trove side. Jakob Skozen from Index Data, as well as everybody knows Mallory and Sebastian. But on the Ex Libris side, Katie Birch and Mike Richens, who's the product owner for Rapid ILL, who I think is also on this call, as well as some of the folks like Tim Jackson and Mark Sullivan from SUNY and from the IDS network. I mean, when I say it took a village, it really did take a village to get this going. From a lot of people, from a lot of different sides. And if you can imagine just the craziness of like sending a request and seeing what it did in Alma, or going back and seeing what it did in ReShare, it was completely and utterly addictive. James, can you go to the next slide? So the problem of what it was that we were actually trying to solve. When a particular title actually goes to end of rota, we want to be able to pass it to Rapido or back and forth. So here's an AI generated image of exactly what it was that we were trying to do. You can see that one of the things is that the wall is not exactly, everything is still in eyesight. That's because we want to be able to see what's going on both sides of the equation. We didn't want to do what's commonly in 1866 land called transfer request, where you throw something over the wall and then it's somebody else's problem to deal with. We actually wanted to be able to track what was going on throughout the request cycle. The Australians, being the Australians, wanted to do everything kind of upside down. They wanted to be able to see the progress of the request. They wanted to be able to have different service levels of normal and rush and express. They also wanted to be able to support conditionals. So yeah, I'll give you this thing, but only under the following conditions, or it's going to cost this much. So those are the types of things that we set out to solve. And I think that in many ways, we got to a place that's workable for now, but I see a lot of work actually coming out of this. So if you can go to the next slide, James. And so James talked a little bit about crosslink. I'm going to put up a diagram of kind of bubbles and arrows because that's the way I understand the world. Anyway, you can see here that when a requester actually requests something, there's a number of different ways that they can get it. And what crosslink basically does is it leverages a whole bunch of different services, whether that's the directory service, whether it's, you know, finding out if the item is actually available or on the shelf at the supplying library. There's a number of different ways that it tries to build a rota, then actually check all of the supplying libraries automatically, and then do some load balancing, things that were all kind of part of the ModRS scheme that we're now trying to do in a much more lighter weight messaging framework. So this is part of the reason that crosslink is so critical, because not only is it looking at kind of the request routing piece of it, but it's also looking at many of the associated services as well. So one of the other cool things to think about is you might also think about this in terms of what would happen if something like Reprints Desk were involved in this, or British Library, or Linda Hall, or document fulfillment services, not just other libraries that are exchanging things back and forth. So we want to be able to extend some of those things that 18626 can't currently do to support some of those service providers as well. So can you go to the next one? So this is proof that we actually can go from request all the way through. You're going to see that there's some things that are kind of stuffed in notes that we had to work on printing on slips and other types of things because there wasn't really a way between within the 18626 framework, the way that Alma implements it and the way that ReShare implements it to really do some of this in more automated fashion. So you'll see that some of this actually gets stuffed in notes, like things like the return address or this types of things. Part of this is because the way that crosslink looks is it looks like 400 libraries of Trove looks like one request sharing partner in Alma. So there's a lot that's going on within that resource sharing partner. Can you go to the next slide for a second? You'll also see that no matter what it is that you try to build, people are going to use it in a different way. Here we were trying to actually get some of these messages to work the way that they wanted. And here the Australians were actually looking at emoticons. This was a use case that we hadn't even considered anywhere near the scoping of this project. And yet Sarah and everybody in Australia found a way to hack it. And so this is one of the, this slide is a really great lesson to everybody, both in the ISO 18626 world as well as in as anybody who's doing development, that just because you intend a particular feature for something doesn't mean that that's the way your users are going to use it. This is part of the reason why getting the user stories so clear and so well framed that we're actually building what it is that the folks actually want. So with that, if you can go to the next slide, I also want to say that in another yes, out OCLC symbols and in ILL and emoticons. Thanks, Papa. So I want to talk a little bit about the transition of where we find ourselves, because now we're in a new kind of, actually just yesterday, we wound up talking about what a new version of 2020 of 1866 would actually look like. Here are some of the features that are actually being introduced into this new version of the protocol. Directly because of some of the things that the Australian folks were doing, we're talking about fines and fee payment. Different types of things like better error handling so that practitioners can actually understand the error messages that actually come out of some of these problems that happen between systems. Better support for digital lending and document delivery. Now we're starting to see requests for mobile delivery and what that actually looks like. Also, better ways of handling conditionals. I mean, it sounds kind of dumb, but the way that Alma deals with conditionals is based on, you know, a string type of data model, and the way that ReShare deals with it is based on an array. So they literally, here we are talking about conditionals, the same thing, but we're literally using different types of language to try to communicate back and forth between these systems. So there's going to be a lot of reconciliation between systems. One of the major goals of the 2027 version is interoperability between systems. So hopefully you'll look and see more of these updates on the CILTS website, the Center for Interlibrary Loan Transactions, or illtransactions.org. As this new protocol is actually built, we're going to be posting updates to that website for that. So with that, I think based on Clara's cruel joke, I'm done.
We didn't intend to give you just 5 minutes at the end. But thank you very much, Alan. Sorry, James, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that before we go into questions that Clara DeMarco is going to facilitate for us, Alan gave a more detailed version of this presentation recently at WOLFcon, and we will link to that in the description of the recording of this that we post on YouTube. So please go check that out to get the full Alan Jones experience. And as much as I joke, this really is like an excellent and really exciting development within resource sharing that we hope folks get excited about and check out.
Well, as James suggested, I volunteered to facilitate questions and answers. I, though, do not feel like a cool enough kid to go back through the chat and pull out these very insidery jokes that folks have been putting in here. But as a relative newcomer to the community, it does make me feel at home that I'm starting to understand some of the nuance in the inside jokes specific to Diet Coke. But does anyone want to put more questions in the chat or to use the raise hand feature? You can ask questions of any of the presenters today. I will add that, as Boaz suggested, one very easy way to be involved is just to email info@Project ReShare. So that's also a place to send your questions, but we can have 4 minutes of good dialogue if folks want to ask their questions now. All right, I gave it the full awkward silence amount of time. So I'm going to hand things over to Clara to wrap us up.
Thank you all so much for coming. Again, like everyone has said, please feel free to shoot us a message if you want to get involved, if you have anything that you'd like to share with us or any further questions. And again, I want to emphasize, please share with your networks this community manager posting. We're really excited to get someone good into that and help us grow even more. Thank you all.